everyone. Testing, testing. Oh, let's see if I did this right. I don't know if I did or not. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Hi there. Just a moment. Slight technical difficulty. Lord, 5 waiting. All right. Let me go here. Sorry, it'll be just a moment. Still new to this, and the live streaming thing is a little different from everything else. Okay. All right. I think you all found me now, I hope. Go here and here. Everybody move over here? Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's John. Welcome to Conscious Quilting. Hello, Utah. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mark. Thank you for being here. Donald. Thank you to everyone who is here. I appreciate it. So tonight I'm going to continue working on the Mandala Quilt and continue talking about this quilt and quilting in general, answer any questions that you've got about quilting or about me in regards to quilting. I don't know how far I'll get on this tonight. I am planning this for about an hour and a half. Sorry about the technical difficulty there. I couldn't see how to get the scheduled live to activate. And technology, I'll figure it out. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Deb. Thank you for being here. I need to realize I don't need to yell. I have a microphone. Oh, and you guys can hear me, right? Somebody give me confirmation on that, please. Okay, thank you. So, how's everyone doing this evening? I'll need two of those. So, is everybody practicing their free motion quilting skills? I hope. So, last week I started my mandala quilt, and it, as these things do, took on a life of its own. I'm just going to bring this out here. So, in case anybody's watching who wasn't with us last week, this is as far as I got. And you're going to get plenty of close ups of it, so don't worry about that right at the moment. And I'm really loving this. I'm loving how this is coming together. I have no idea where it's going, but we're going to find out together. That's kind of the fun part about doing this style of quilting, and it's what I really love to do. One of the reasons that I got out of quilting for other people is it forces the quilter into a box. And there are, of course, another person's expectations to be met. And if you're quilting for show, other people's opinions become extremely important. The artist in me really rebelled against that and died inside a little bit every single time. And I mean, boo hoo hoo. I spent 2.5 years quilting for big shows, and my work went to Paducah. It was an honor, and I'm thankful for it. I also learned tremendous amount about my craft by doing that 2.5 year stint. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, it was so awful. No, it wasn't. It was a great learning experience, and it was absolutely boot camp when it comes to quilting and quilting well and doing the hardest thing you can do and not taking shortcuts. I learned so much when I was show quilting because you really have to bring your A game then. And there's no no one will notice. Oh yes, they will. When your work is going to Paducah, they will notice. So it better be on point, and all your starts and stops better be clean, and your stitches per inch better be accurate. And and it was terrifying. It was very stressful and terrifying, and that's one of the reasons also why I stopped. It was like, that's not why I came to quilting. I came to quilting for solace. You know, I came to quilting, and I get this question a lot. I came to quilting when my father died, and it was therapy. It was the only place of solace that I could find in my life from the grief and the terror. And I did not handle his death well at all, and that was what led me on my journey into quilting, was grief and loss. And I've noticed a lot of people get led into it through grief, loss, or illness, or some combination thereof. I My journey has been fueled by that loss, has been fueled by that grief. And the act of sitting at my machine and or standing at my long arm, but mostly sitting at my machine, the act of sitting there and quilting, the rhythm of it, the movement of it, the flow of it creates a meditative place of peace that I need to restore myself and pull myself together. And it's a very big part of my mental health. And doing these videos and doing all the quilting that I've been doing in this last 6 weeks or so, um, to create content for the channel and to work with you guys has been tremendously beneficial to my mental health. So that's motivation enough for me to just keep making videos for the rest of my life, because I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. I really, really do. Um, but that's why I got out of the quilting for other people business, because then it just turned into work and stress, which was the opposite of why I came to quilting. It was no longer my place of solace, and I lost the comfort from it. And that was bad because I needed that, and I still do. So, but I did learn a lot from that process, and it was boot camp, very much. But really teaches you to bring your A game and to do your best and not be lazy. And when you're working on your own stuff, you can be a little lazy. It's like on this piece, I've been using my scissor key. On the back, there's a bunch of tails that I have to trim off. I would never do that on somebody else's quilt, and I would never do that on a show quilt, not in a million years. Um, and even usually on my own quilts, I still wouldn't be that lazy about it. But it's a lot quicker than pulling up my threads every time, and there's a lot of thread changes in this. Anywho, oh God, you guys have just been watching and wrapped and so quiet. That's fine. Although I welcome your questions and comments as well. I'm going to be looking up at the chat box periodically to see what's going on. Does anyone have any particular questions before I turn the camera on to the quilting? Just while we are chatting. I'll give you a minute to type. Get this into position. That's one glove. Where's my other glove? Oh. Quilting gloves. Can't live without them. Very important. Talk about the batting. Okay, sure. Actually, I'll address Heidi's question first because that'll be quicker. No. I did not draw this out on paper first. I just started with a center circle and then built out from that with my various shaped rulers, and just kind of let it build itself. I tend to do, mandalas in general are very symmetrical in nature. So once you have a general shape, it gets a lot easier to just build it out. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at it right now, and I just got a flash of inspiration for something I'm going to do later on it. I'll have to mark that in too, I think. I won't want to freehand that. Going to the batting, I am just using 100% cotton batting. I don't have an extra layer in here for loft, because when you're working on black fabric, loft doesn't really make that much of a difference unless you're just going for something, tactile wise, because you're never going to see it. You're not going to see the depth of texture because that comes from the shadows and you're on black fabric. So you're not going to see the shadows. On white fabric or light fabrics and something that I'm like really ornately quilting, which I will go grab a sample of exactly what I'm talking about. When I'm doing that, I like to use 2 layers of batting. So a cotton and a poly or wool on top. Let me get this sample real quick. Sample. Okay. So this piece right here, and of course, it's white on white, so getting the texture is a little tricky. You can start to see, I think. So there's a really good picture of this in my latest video. And this has 2 layers of batting in it to give it a little, actually, oh, I'm lying. I'm lying. I forgot to put the second layer in this. So you'd be able to see it so much better. You would be able to see this so much better if I had put that second layer of batting in there. Yet again, I am haunted by the decision to use 1 layer of batting. Anytime that you're doing white work, white thread on white fabric, go for the second layer of batting, because then people will be able to see what you did. There is a show quilt that will haunt me to my grave that I only did 1 layer of batting on, and I should have done 2. And I put 30 active hours of quilting into it and 6 spools of Aurifil and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And you couldn't see any of the work that I did, because unless you had perfect lighting, you know, it wouldn't show up, because I only had the 1 layer of batting in there. So batting important. Let's see. So tonight's sewing machine is played by the Baby Lock Symphony. It's the machine that I have been using in class, Deb. This is an older model Baby Lock. It's about 12 years old. And I bought it secondhand in October. I actually used to own this same machine that I bought new many years ago, and I'd sold it and I always regretted it. So when it came through as used, I went ahead and picked it up, and I love it. It's great to use for free motion quilting. It's a lot of fun. So that is that. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to go ahead and turn this towards the quilting, which is really why we're all here. And but I'll still be answering questions and talking about what I'm doing as I go. Okay? So get ready for a little bit of shaky cam. Sorry about this. Ooh, shaky cam. And I'm going to bring this in closer. We're going for kind of an over-the-shoulder effect here. But, ooh, zoom. Okay. That should be good. We'll see how that works, and if I need to adjust it, I will. Can everybody see okay? Let's see. Yeah, it should be fine. So first thing that I'm going to start off with was something I actually meant to accomplish this afternoon. You may notice, looking at my sample, that I have drawn in echoes of my initial stitched half circles here. I was going to stitch those in this afternoon and got wrapped up in life, as one does, and also a nap because, you know, Mama had to sparkle, and I didn't get to this. So I'm going to ooh, sorry. Shaky cam. Sorry about that. You kicked it. I'm going to quilt these in real quick, and I'm the John McClane School of Quilting. I'm just going to slap it on and hope for the best here, because I'm just going to freehand the echo to this here, and we're just going to hope that that's going to work just fine. Probably take it to there and quilty. All right. Lock that stitch in. And I'm very carefully following my drawn in line. I'm trying to stay relaxed about that, because if you start stressing out about following the line that you have drawn, instead of simply using it as a guideline and breathing, you're going to freak out. And then your hands are going to go, blah! And that's not going to work real well as far as smooth quilting. Bring that over there and lock the stitch and cardinal sin. Okay. And we're just going to get these knocked out real quick before I get to the fun stuff, because I need these in here. I already have an idea of what's going to go in this space here. And I have made an effort to try to ignore this project all week since last Tuesday, because I kind of made a commitment to myself that I was not going to work on it until you guys were back with me. You know, the whole point of this was that this was something we did together. And, you know, with you all watching and me quilting and running my mouth. And, you know, I didn't want you to miss anything vital or important that might come up while I was quilting it, because that happens. And those of you who've been in my in-person classes, of course, know that the ADD is strong with this one, and I will get derailed and completely forget my thought. So if something had come up while I was quilting this on my own, I wouldn't have remembered it later to come back and say, oh, hey, I had this thought I wanted to share with you guys. So that's part of why I didn't want to work on this without being on the live stream. And not to mention, you know, not like I had oodles of time to do that. I'm making other videos for the channel. I'm working. I have dishes to do and laundry like everybody else, because, you know, it's the maid's millennium off, and I I have to do all these things for myself, just like everybody else. So but I'm really glad to be back with you guys tonight. I enjoyed last week, even though we had some technical foibles. I enjoyed it so much, and I found it very rejuvenating to do that. I just had, ooh la la la, don't you dare plead on me. I will set you on fire. Don't you dare plead on me. Okay. I just really enjoyed that and had a lot of fun with it. It was a good time. I like seeing this develops. Yeah. Yeah. This is a good time. And watching it come together live is a very different experience from when I just show up with a completed thing. And I think a lot of people just think that, I don't know, like I just dreamed these out and they're just materialize out of nowhere. And it's like, no, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. And usually, like even with my videos that I make for the channel, you know, keep in mind, those are heavily edited for content and time. The most recent video that I put up was 12 active hours of work between the quilting and the editing for an 11-minute video, which is why you should never skip parts of a video. There's a lot of work that went into that to make that happen. It's a magical 11 minutes. And of course, at the same time, by the time I get it uploaded, I've watched it 463 times during the editing process, and I'm sick to death of it, and I never want to see it again. And I keep thinking, God, this is too long. No one's going to watch this. So silly. All right. Okay, we're going to get to the fun stuff now. So I am going to, oh, yeah, I took my gloves off for a reason. Time to take the gloves off. I got to switch my thread. So I'm going to switch out to a rather bright yellow. That should be exciting on camera. You'll see every little mistake that I make. It'll be great fun. Because that's the thing too, going live is, you know, there's no editing here. It's what's going to happen is going to happen, which is cool. It's fine. I, I was so nervous last week just because that's the thing about life. Anything can happen. And as we saw when the microphone died. Oh, and I'm going to check in with you guys every once in a while and make certain that that's not happening. You guys can still hear me. Yes, please tell me. Need to check about every 5-10 minutes with you guys and just make sure we're not having any sound issues. As soon as it goes too long without me saying anything, somebody put something in the chat box, please. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And thank you. Thank you all for being here. 10 of you here now. That's wonderful. So happy that you're here. Okay, so I'm going to move into some texture work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting in pebbles now in yellow on black, which is extremely dangerous in these fields around. I may not do that in all the fields. We're going to see. We'll see how my shoulders hold up. Because pebble work is very work intensive. It does help if you thread the needle. Important pro tip: thread the needle on your sewing machine before you start quilting. I can't tell you how often I make that mistake. Drop that in there, lock the stitch. Doogie doogie doo. So the pebbles. Yes, yes. One day I shall be known as the Bob Ross of quilting. I'm wondering, well, we're going to, for this first one, I'm going to leave the camera as it is. I want to see how well you can see. Yeah, Vera, I know. I love the way that anything color pops on black. That's why I tend to use black as a canvas, unless I'm doing white work, specifically white thread on white fabric. If I'm doing color work, that's going to show so much better on black fabric. And of course, because I'm doing this on video, that's going to show so much better on camera. So win-win. Here we go. And just got my little thread in my way, of course. Get that out and we'll be okay. Okay. Whew. And of course, when you're free motion quilting, always, always, always take a moment, take a breath, get yourself centered in your belly. You want to breathe and relax and get yourself really centered. And I mean, I will often rock my body a little bit back and forth and side to side to kind of get that center stable point, and take a few cleansing breaths and just go into a space with it and really, really try to just bring yourself into a place of calm. So many people try to free motion quilt and they get nervous and terrified and start having all sorts of issues. And that does not make for good quilting in the slightest if you're all stressed out and having issues like that. So the whole point of the quilting for me is to get away from that state of consciousness and into a much more peaceful state of consciousness. And I often will begin my quilting with a quiet prayer or a meditation and just try to get into that more spiritual space with it. For myself, that's what works. You have to find what works for you, and I respect that no matter what that is for anybody. For some people, it's have a half a glass of wine before you free motion quilt. Okay. That doesn't always work out so well for me because wine hits me really hard. So I tended to stick with the prayer and the meditation, and that works better for me. And you find what works for you, and that's okay. So Hopefully these pebbles are showing up okay on the camera. I'll check on that in a few minutes. And these are just tiny little circle-ish movements here. And getting into these tight spaces is always fun. And you really, when you're doing pebbles, you really have to find kind of just the right pace for your fabric and your machine. I am using my foot control and I am modulating my speed with it. Although I have the machine max speed set at about medium, I still do some modulation with the foot control, because if I'm working in a tighter space, I may not want to keep it at the same pace. But if I go too slowly with the fabric, eventually the thread's going to shred. And I have had that happen a lot on my various little video projects, and I usually edit that out. But of course, we won't have that as an option here, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. Sometimes in life, the thread shreds, and you got to rethread the needle and move on. These are not perfect circles by any stretch. They're pebbles, and pebbles are not perfect circles in nature. I tend to use, and we see it, I mean, it's not just me, obviously. We see a lot of elements of nature in free motion quilting, whether it's pebbles or flames or waves or winds or, whatever, ripples and, things that occur in nature occur in free motion quilting a lot. And that's part of the appeal for me to free motion quilting, because piecing is all about math and geometry, and that's a very different part of the brain than the more intuitive, more connected to nature, hippie side of things. And that's my jam, and where I like to be, just out. Okay, my thread is starting to shred. I told you. Told you. Told you so. Do you play music while quickly? Deb, so when I'm not filming, if I can, part of my issue, Deb asked if I play music while quilting. Let me say that first. I need to remember that that's not always going to be visible when people are watching this later. So I do like to have music going when I can hear it. My only two ways of getting music currently are my laptop and my phone. And neither one of them are actually loud enough to overcome the sound of my sewing machine. So I can't really hear it. Yes, I know I could get earbuds, and I've thought about that. And I might do that at some point. I just haven't done it. But I do, yeah, some of the videos do line up with the background music. That is completely serendipity, total luck. That is not my engineering by any stretch of the imagination. Believe me, I do not have those skills. Oh, those pebbles are showing up rather nicely, aren't they? Good. And then Cheryl, it looks like you go around each once or twice to have the colors show up better. Is that true? Yeah, and it takes a lot of practice to go over the same line the second time. Yes, and yes. Backtracking, especially in a project like this, is very, very important. And it comes up a whole lot, when you're doing a lot of thread play that is meant to show on your quilt, then you really do have to do a lot of clean backtracking as much as you can. If you really zoom up on these pebbles, you'll see, yeah, there's places where I missed, but when you step back from it, doesn't matter. You don't notice, and it's fine. I've seen backtracking at the competitions that would curl your hair, you know, just with the sheer cleanliness of it. And it's like, holy smokes, ladies and gentlemen, that's some master quilting right there. And I'm not like that. My stuff tends to be very sketchbooky, and I like it like that. I don't necessarily want it to be so flawless that you think that a computer did it. I want you to know that a human being had something to do with this. I want you to know that it's got soul in it, as art should. There's no AI in my free motion quilting, and there never will be. And that's a thing for me. I'm not trying to diss AI. I'm sure it's got its really great uses in the world, but leave the artists alone. We have a hard enough time even surviving. Vincent van Gogh was not the only one who had a hard time making it through on this planet. And, a lot of artists do have a very, very difficult time just going from day to day, much less making a living. And very, very few of us actually get to make a living doing the art that we love. So I think that AI replacing artists is not a good thing at all. And I'm very glad that, even though there are sewing machines out there that will absolutely, make me obsolete, and they have. And yet, obviously, there's still interest in what I do, because here you all are. So there. All right, so that, we'll bring this closer in here. That's cool. That's really cool. That looks great. I love that. Look at the way that makes this pop. That's fantastic. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's the thing when I'm doing this. I never know exactly what's going to happen. I never know, don't know. It's going to be a surprise. Let's move on to another one. And I think I'm going to zoom in just a bit. I don't want to overdo it because I still want you to be able to see some of the rest of the quilt. But I'm going to try and zoom just a skosh. So everybody hold on to your hats because it's going to get a little shaky for a second. That's a little too much. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, and yeah, I think that's going to work pretty well. Cool. All righty. So we shall continue on to the next one. What am I doing in the next one? That's a good question. I don't want to do that because that's right next to that. I don't want to do that. Sometimes it takes a minute for that inspiration to come through. And I'm going to stand up. And a lot of the time when I'm working on a quilt like this, where I'm allowing it to birth itself, so to speak. Sometimes I've got to step several feet back from it and look at it and think about what it's calling for next and try to listen to the piece. It's just like an artist, painter looking at a canvas. You may or you may not always hear what the piece has to say. Man, I am loving those pebbles. That's great. Uh, and sometimes I just have to step back and just enjoy my own work, which sounds a little narcissistic, but I don't mean it that way at all, because it's more of a "who did that" kind of reaction. I always feel like, gee, where was I? Because that's really cool. But I have to look at it and think for a minute about what I really want for those other three quadrants. Do I want to do pebbles all the way around? Do I want to do something different? And right now I'm leaning towards pebbles all around, because that looks really, really good. I'm really digging that. Oh, sorry, Cheryl. Yeah, there's a whole inner monologue that goes on when I'm creating. For a second, I was debating. Let me see where we can see here. I was debating putting in this pattern in the yellow out here, but I don't want to do that because they're right next to each other, and that doesn't work. It's too repetitive, and they, even though they're different colors, they'll run into each other. So earlier when I said I don't want to do that, that's what I was talking about. And I'm just going to grab my coffee really quickly because I need my rocket fuel to do what I do. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep going with the pebbles because that just looks really good all the way around, and it'll keep it balanced. I was originally thinking I would do, sorry about that, four different textures in these areas. But looking at it now, because I'm going to have plenty of opportunity when I make it to the outside part of this to do more of a graffiti style, everything thrown together, cosmic chaos kind of thing's going to go on the outside of this. And so in here, I need to keep it orderly to balance the piece. So I'm just going to continue with my pebbles then. And if anybody has, other questions about quilting and me quilting and stuff like that, start typing. We were talking earlier about, the importance of clean backtracking. Now, when I'm doing these pebbles, because Cheryl, you pointed this out, that there's a lot of running over previously stitched lines, and that is true. Every time that you're making pebbles next to each other, there's going to be a little bit of that. And so as we cruise along here, sometimes you're going to cross into a previously existing pebble, even if it's just a little bit. If it's just a little bit, you can fix it by going over it again and building it up more. And then that place where they kind of crossed into each other will fix itself. It'll just disappear under the thread, no big deal. And then sometimes not so much. Sometimes it just won't fix itself. And you just have to accept that it's there, and it's going to look a little sketchbooky, but so what? You breathe through it and you keep going. And when it's all done, when you step back from it, it always looks so much better than when you're right up on it. My eyes are currently about maybe 15 inches from what I'm stitching. So every stitch that falls out of place is being noticed. Oh, there's one. But when I step back from it, it's like, oh, that's wonderful. I love it. So it's important to step back from your work while you're working on it when you're quilting, so that you can really get the actual impact of it. There's a bad case of can't see the forest for the trees. Right now, I'm zoomed in on the trees. So, but you step back and the forest is breathtaking. And sneak through back in here and fill in my spaces. And I'm going to quietly travel through here. Uh-oh. Oh, we're okay. Okay. Thought my thread was breaking. It's not. For once. Oh, if anybody's wondering, I'm using a Floriani embroidery thread right now. And I am, again, into Well, that didn't take long at all, did it? I am working on a solution to that microphone issue. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? I'm just going to hang in there. Can you hear me now? Good. Okay. For the record, my microphone had a full charge on it. I made sure of that. Okay, so I guess about 45 minutes is the limit for that microphone. I have another microphone that I need an adapter to make it work with my phone, and that adapter is on its way, and it is of course going to arrive tomorrow, not today. So yeah, Deb, I know there's no notifier when a chat comes through. There's no bell on my end that rings or anything like that, um, to let me know things. So sorry about that, kids. I wasn't saying anything earth shattering. I was just talking about pebbles and backtracking. I don't know when you lost me, but it's okay. We'll just continue. It's fine. Um, Again, if you guys have any other comments or questions not relating to the sound issues, let me know. How long was I good? How long were you without sound? Can someone give me an idea of that, please? I'm trying to figure out exactly how long my microphone lasted. It's probably only a couple minutes, right? I hope. Couple minutes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was talking about the importance of backtracking and pebbles and the difficulty of doing little micro pebbles in tight spaces. And it's difficult, and the backtracking is important. There, that's everything that you missed. Let's move on. Oh, and the bobbin ran out. Okay. No big. Pardon me a moment. Let me deal with that little issue. That one we're all set for because I knew that was going to happen. So clip that. Hello. Oh, that was the other thing I was talking about, I think, when the microphone was out, the fact that I was using black bobbin thread, which is something I have told my students never to do, using strong contrasts in thread. However, and here is a real good example of why. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. But some of that bobbin thread came up and came through right as the bobbin ran out. So always important to get that out of there, especially if one of the threads is going to contrast with the fabric. Okay, let me get this going here. Tiny, tiny, tiny little pebble. And then we can get it going again. And let's get cruising here, because this is... I want to get this filled up and get on to something else, something more fun. I may actually come back to the rest of these pebbles later and start working my way towards the outer, some of the outer pieces. I'm having fun with it. That's one of the things you have to kind of be mindful of when you're doing pebble work. If you do it for a long time, eventually you're going to get sick of doing them, and something in you is going to be like, I'm just going to do these huge boulders here that are like 3 inches in diameter just so I can get this done, when I haven't done 3-inch boulders anywhere else in my quilt. Not a great idea. It really sticks out if you do that. Ask me how I know. And so if I were to do that, then if I catch myself doing it, then I'll usually go in and try to fill the larger boulder in with smaller pebbles to hide it, if I can, just so it doesn't stick out. There's that. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of repainting here to thicken these lines up. I'm just running over real quick. Some, not all, of what I've stitched in here, because it'll make it stand out a little more. And I'm just working my way kind of through the labyrinth here. And it's important to really breathe when you're doing this kind of work, because, I mean, any kind of free motion, you know, I lean on the importance of your breath. You know, breath work as a meditative technique and breath work as a quilting technique, very, very important and very much tied together. Breathing from your belly and not letting your breath just be in your upper chest, you know, taking those deep, deep belly breaths and allowing your gut to hang a little bit and all that kind of stuff. Does help you to get more centered in your body, which is where you need to be when you're free motion quilting. You know, you need to be nice and relaxed, and you need to breathe. I see people hold their breath while they're quilting all the time, and it's dreadful. They stress themselves out so bad, and they darn near give themselves an anxiety attack over it. And part of that anxiety is coming from the fact that they're not getting enough oxygen, and yet their brain is panicking because they're not breathing, and they're supposed to be breathing. I see it all the time in class. So, breathing, very important. All right, look, ooh, I gotta zoom in on this real quick. Ooh, that looks so good. Oh, I love that. Look at how, oh, look how that purple jumps out of that. I love it. Love it, I love it, I love it. Oh, I love the impact of that. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna actually change to another thread. Not sure what yet. I gotta go look in my crayon box real quick, which is right behind me. And maybe a blue. Should I do a blue? So those are purple. This is a light. Thinking about what I want to do next. I'm going to jump out of the pebble work because you guys have been watching that for long enough, and I've been doing it for long enough, and my shoulders are telling me to do something different. So I'm going to. I've got a light blue here. I'm thinking about going to this area right here and see what we can do in there. I've got some ideas for that. How's everybody doing? Let me just check in with you guys. Since we switched out from the regular microphone to the phone, everything sound okay with the machine running and me talking? Any problems with that? You didn't let me know, so I guess not, but what color, if any, do you avoid on a black background? Honestly, black. So, a long time ago, in a quilting room far, far away, I was working on this pretty, in my own opinion, if I do say so myself, this pretty amazing piece that I did. And it was something that I did tied to a solar eclipse that was going on. It was not the great eclipse. But it was, you know, I was going with a theme with it. It was bright yellow on black fabric for the main body of the quilting, but then for the background quilting all around. So like this here would be the main body of the quilting. And then of course over here, outside of here, this would become the background over here. So for the background quilting, I did black. Black thread on black fabric, ornate quilting, and I had good light, but the fact is that black fabric and black thread will suck the light out of any room. And the following week, I had to start wearing glasses. I had done some kind of damage to my eyes, and I had no choice but to start wearing, and I mean, just cheater readers, at least so far, but realistically, we're just about we're just about to the point where I need to go get real glasses. But black thread on black fabric will ruin your eyes. And it is not worth it. It is not worth the trouble. When I get to the outside area of this quilt, what I'm thinking right now, and this is subject to change, but what I'm thinking right now, I should put something a little more interesting onto the screen, is that I'm going to use a kind of a charcoal, not charcoal, but like a light medium gray in the background so that the colors really pop out of the quilt. That's what I'm shooting for. And I'm absolutely loving how that purple is jumping out of this quilt and just singing, because you know, just everything's coming together really nicely. I'm digging it. And I think it'll be the same thing for this blue that I'm about to put in here. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna put into those spaces yet. But that's part of the journey. You know, you have to step back and you have to look at it and think about it a little bit, and just listen to the piece. And the same thing, excuse me, the same thing is very, very true when you're quilting on like a bed quilt or a wall hanging, whatever your quilted project is. You know, quilts have a personality. They have a life force of their own. When we take the time to piece something and, you know, sew together all of these little pieces of fabric that we bought yards and yards of, and then we cut it up into tiny little pieces, and then we sewed it back together again, because quilting is probably a form of clinical insanity. Um, you know, when we do that, we imbue it with life. We give it pieces of ourself every time. And whether or not we intend anything special with the quilt that we're making, we still put a little piece of ourself into it. And sometimes it's big pieces of ourself, and sometimes it's little, but there's always something. And there's a spirit there. Thanks, Heidi. Take care. Thank you for coming. There's a spirit to the quilt and a consciousness, I think. Not a consciousness, but like an energy. An energy, which in some books are the same thing. And, you know, quilts have a spirit, I think, you know, a spiritual energy to them. And not trying to go too woo-woo here, but this is just my philosophy of quilting. And the quilting itself is a part of that personality, is a part of that spirit. And if you look at a pieced quilt and you listen to it, and this is kind of a meditative thing, you know, you have to observe it and let it speak to you. You know, Da Vinci, I think it was Da Vinci, you know, always said the sculpture was always present in the marble. I just released it. And it's very much the same thing with the quilting. The quilting is there. You just have to look for it and then bring it out. And that's what I try to do in my work. And it sounds a little crazy and a little hippie and a little woo-woo, and it is. And that's how I roll, damn it. So let's move on. Quilty, quilty. What am I doing in this space? Okay, I'm doing that. Okay. Little bit more ribbon candy around the ribbon candy, because why not? Now, starting tiny like this is always fantastic, but that's all right. With the ribbon candy, and I'm actually getting ready to start work on a video that's all about ribbon candy, probably in this coming week. But ribbon candy is just a figure eight motion over and over again, but you're not actually crossing the figure eight. And some figure eights are better than others, and we roll with that. I'll stop for a second and just adjust my positioning here, because I'm going around in an arc, and I need to get this just right. And it's not coming out just right, but that's okay. You know, everything does not go perfect, and it, you know, that's life, and that's quilting, and that's okay. You know, it's not about it being perfect, it's about it being yours, and about it being what you want, and that's all that really matters. See, that's a nice quick filler. I like that. Okay, and I'm going to turn this way so that hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Come around here. See if you got that. Yeah, nice. All right, on to the next one. And again, with the tiny little ribbon candy, you know, it's not going to matter if it's perfect. But when you're working ribbon candy on an arc like I'm doing, it is important to pay attention to the direction of the arc. And unfortunately, I kind of got lost in it for a second. On the first one, I should have turned like here to start with. But this is how we learn, and that's fine. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to pivot. You know, you pivot how you need to pivot, and work your quilt however you need to. And when you have a tight arc like this, sometimes you're going to pivot a lot, and that's all good. Bring that around. Stop again and pivot one more time, and that should do it. And cruising down in here. You know, and again, when it's really tight like that, ain't nobody gonna see it, doesn't matter. Just keep on rolling. So there's that one, and I'll trim that out. Whoop. There we go. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. Ooh, I like it, I like it, I like it. Okay. And I like that this is like way quicker. So you start to see more of this come together if I can work more of these patterns in while you're watching. Okay. Ribbon candy. Hands and brain working together. Breathe. Breathing. Very important. It is tricky when you're working on a motif that gets larger and smaller. You know, you're starting small and you're getting big and then going back small or whatever, whenever you're changing scale, working with the design. You know, it's really easy for your hands and your brain to get stuck in one mode or size on a motif, and that can work against you. So you do have to kind of force yourself and be like, okay, we need to keep changing this. This is, you know, this is a really good exercise in that because you're constantly changing it. It is constantly getting either larger or smaller as you go. And so it's a great exercise for your brain and for your hands and for the muscle memory of the ribbon candy. And I'm going to pivot again. Pivot. Pivot. And breathe. Okay. And one more. But yeah, I really, really dig how that looks. That's really cool. There's one more. Okay. I think I lost track of which direction I was going in. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's that's just my OCD talking. Did you do it clockwise or counterclockwise? It's very important. Yeah, that's the OCD. Okay. So we'll do this last one. And of course, because I'm running the needle so fast in this tight little space, and I'm not really rushing my fabric, my stitches are super tiny in that spot, but I don't obsess over stitch length and stitch consistency. Yes, Cheryl, the loops are larger around the heart of the arc. Correct. We are making that larger as we get to that larger space. And then as we get smaller, we're going to make it smaller. We're trying to make it as smooth and as appealing as we possibly can as we work our way around. And I'm going to pivot again. Pivety, and there we go. And some of my pivoting is not actually that great, and some of my angling is not that great for this, but it's my piece, and I can have it be however I want it to be, and I love it, so it's fine. Again, would I be worrying about that a lot more if I was sending it to Houston or Paducah? You bet your sweet Pippi I would. But that's not where it's going. It's going to hang on my wall. And that's all I care about. I am the only judge that I'm worried about for this. And I am not going to be hard on myself about, anything that's a little out of place or a little this and a little that. That looks pretty darn cool. I dig it. Let's see where we're at. Bring that back a little so you all get a better view. Yeah. I think that's good. Yeah, that's, I love it. I'm going to blow up my view here so I can see it a little better. That's cool. I'll bet you this would be pretty outstanding under black light too. That might be fun to play with at some point. I posted one of the short videos that I posted recently, a couple weeks ago, which with Queens, it's a kind of magic playing in the background. I love that one. And I have a thing on my ring light that will just cycle through the different colors that my LED ring light will do. And I had actually stitched that piece, which was just a graffiti quilting piece that was practice. I had stitched that using a very neon yellow thread that, as it turns out, is blacklight reactive. And so the whole thing just glowed under blacklight. It was very, very cool. And I had a lot of fun with that. That was great. So now I've got that blue in there, and I need to think about what's going to go in next. I think I may just go back and finish those pebbles. That'll probably carry us through the end of the video. Because then that's grounding the piece with those pebbles, that earthy kind of energy. I tend to look at the mandala quilts in terms of nature and the elements and the cosmos, and I'll work all kinds of symbolism into them that is all esoteric and weird and spiritual and whatever, because that's how I roll. And on a very, very personal level, I'm really into that kind of thing, and I really like to bring in, different spiritual elements to my quilts, different spiritual elements to the pieces that I do. Whether I talk about them or not is, you know, irrelevant. I usually don't, um, because that stuff is always so personal and in some cases divisive, and I'm not here for that at all. But when I'm creating for myself, I'll put it in there and I know it's there and that's all I care about. If somebody else notices it and goes, "Oh, I recognize that," then that's cool. That's a shared moment from artist to viewer that, becomes this little magical moment between the creator of the art and the person observing it. And they go, "Oh, yeah." So that's very, very cool. Um, yeah, I'm going to switch back out to my yellow. Let's see, checking the question box here. Cheryl, how far out do you go to one side before doing all around the symmetry, or do you always keep quilting equal going out? Ah, I understand. Um, so that depends on the piece that I'm doing. Uh, Basically, you're asking if I'm correct, if I'm understanding you. Do I just go in one direction, or do I keep trying to work my way out from the center around in a circle? You know, just like if you were, you know, quilting on a bed quilt, generally you'd start in the center and work your way out. And certainly on, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm understanding you. Okay. So certainly on a mandala quilt like this is, which is, very much going to wind up being kind of an object of meditation for me. Um, the creation of it is, but also this is something that I can kind of stare at and focus on when I'm, actively meditating and just kind of bliss out on it a little bit and focus on the different elements in it. But when I'm actively stitching it, I do like to work around. Um, like if I was doing this and you guys weren't watching, there would be a whole song and dance going on where I would be, honestly, it's not just the OCD. I would be a lot more mindful about the direction that I'm going in, whether I am going clockwise or counterclockwise, and I would complete each section in a certain prescribed order because that would be part of my meditation. That has nothing to do necessarily with the actual quilting of the quilt, like the mechanics of quilting. Um, but if you are working, especially when you're working on dense quilting like this is, because there's a lot of that going on here, of course, you do want to work from the center out because that is redistributing a lot of your batting. Now, I started this piece by stitching in my framework. And so, like over here outside of my textures, like right here, this is stitched in. This is not just a mark. This is all stitched in here. Um, and so that batting is already locked in. It's already locked down. As I go along, every stitch is redistributing the batting and the fabric. So I do need to be very mindful about the direction that I'm going in terms of the quilt mechanics there. Um, that's going to help prevent me from getting pleats and rolls and things like that as I go along, and bunching of the batting and such. We don't want to have that, of course. Let's see, we are 79 minutes in. It's 8:20. I'm thinking about another 10 minutes or so. Okay, so let me get back to quilting because that's what you're all here for. Quilting and me running my mouth. And I'm so glad you guys all came. This has been delightful having you guys here again, and I'm enjoying it. Um, I will try next time to figure out what what happened with the scheduled uh, live and why I couldn't connect to it. And I'm sure it was me. It's not YouTube. I'm not going to try and say, oh, YouTube was having technical difficulties. No, I was having technical difficulties, not YouTube. YouTube was just fine. So I'll try to figure that out. But I do like doing this on Tuesday nights. I've had several people tell me that Tuesday night's not really a great time for them to be a part of the live stream, but they'll come in and watch it later, which is fine, because within 24 hours it'll be available to be rewatched. And I've had quite a few people actually go in and watch the last one. It's had quite a few views, so that's cool. And not like a million or anything, but a few. And I really do enjoy doing these live streams and being able to interact with you guys while I work without any real pressure or anything, just kind of letting it be what it is and arise as it will. When I'm teaching a class in person, there's an agenda, and I have to try to fill that agenda if I can, and sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't, because that's when the real shenanigans come about, because you've got, up to 12 people in that classroom who all have different machines and different quilting issues that'll come up, and they all come up with some very creative questions, and they all want your time and attention, which is what I'm there for, and I get that. But then my agenda gets pushed to the side sometimes, and I look up and I'm like, oh God, there's only 5 minutes left. And I only got halfway through my actual lesson. And sometimes that happens. Thankfully, not often, but I have had it happen. And I just have to kind of pick up my feet and go with it. And then sometimes there's pressure from other sources telling me to wrap it up because I'm needed on the floor or whatever. So, you just have to roll with it. But that's the nice thing about doing this is there's none of that. I can pretty much just focus on creating and then talking about what I'm working on and just give my general quilting philosophy and impart whatever quilting wisdom I may have to you guys. And hopefully that'll be fun for you. I hope that you guys are, you're all here. If you weren't enjoying it, you would have left. So I guess you are. And I hope you're getting something useful and nourishing out of it. It is my hope to build my channel up quite a bit. It's been growing very nicely the last few weeks. And, I've gotten a lot more subscribers, a lot more views, a lot more watch time. My ultimate goal is to monetize this channel, which requires a lot more viewers and a lot more subscribers and a lot more clicks. But that's all right. I'll just keep working and building it. I'm heading in the right direction with it. It's growing pretty rapidly, so I can't complain too much. And being that it is specifically a free motion quilting channel, I can't really expect it to just go viral and suddenly I'm going to wake up and there's 1 million subscribers overnight. I don't expect that at all. But I'll build my little community here, and hopefully you guys will enjoy my work and get something out of it, because that's what I'm hoping for. Cruising around here, filling my pebbles in. I'm going to take a moment to peek at the chat box. Okay, cool. And fill this all in. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to get that finished. All right. Wink. So we've got 3 out of the 4 finished. Plus we got those 4 arcs done. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to zoom this out now. Shaky cam alert. There we go. Slightly more shaky cam alert. Oh, that looks so cool. Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Let's see here. Oh, I could zoom in a little better than that. Sorry. Okay. It looks very different on my camera than it actually shows up on the screen here. That just took me exactly back where I was. That was ridiculous. Okay. Let's try that. Trying to make sure you can see as much of it as possible, but also see the detail. Okay, that's whatever. Okay. Yeah, very blacklight poster. Yeah. And I will post a good photo when I get the last set of pebbles done. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate that. When I get the last set of pebbles done, which I'll probably finish tonight, I'm going to take a good picture of the whole thing and I'll post that in the community section on the page. And so you'll get more of the impact there. Because as we step out from it, we lose a lot of the detail. But you do get the impact of the colors and stuff, which is nice. I'm going to pull that back out again. Zoop. Zoop. There. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm really, really enjoying this. It's so nice. That's so fun. So very fun. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me this evening. It's 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and time to kind of wind it up. I've got a class to teach in the morning. Thank you all so much for coming and for watching. Those of you who are watching after the fact, I hope you enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I will have pictures of the progress on this up very shortly. But this is such a good time, and I really, really do truly love sitting with you guys and quilting. This is very, very comforting for me and very fun. So, but I thank you very, very much. And I'm probably going to do this next Tuesday. So if you want to come back, feel free. So, but we're going to wrap it up for tonight. So thank you very much and good night.